Welcome into Locked On Knicks. And Gavin, sometimes you have the best laid plans, you foul out Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then Grayson Allen just shows up and poops in your Cheerios and just ends the night off in a terrible way for you. Like what happened tonight when the Knicks faced the Bucks?
Yeah, Alex, that's kind of been his specialty since he was at Duke. The guy just loves pooping in Cheerios and tripping people. But big nights for Mitchell Robinson and RJ Barrett on top of some interesting outings for some of the Knicks' younger players, Julius Randle up and down. We get into it all right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. And we want to thank you guys for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us a part of your daily routine. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land. He is Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster's favorite play-by-play broadcaster. And the Knicks lost to the Bucks tonight. And as mentioned in the intro, Gavin, I was so impressed by what the Knicks did with managing the Giannis foul trouble situation down the stretch of this game. I thought was fantastic. They did such a good job of making sure that Giannis was guarding whoever had the ball at that time and took advantage of the fact that he was in foul trouble, got him fouled out of the game. And, I really thought, I was like, you know what? They're going to pull this one off. Like once Jalen Brunson tied it with that free throw, only made one of two on that final free throw sequence from him, but he ties it up. And I was like, man, this is good. I think they've really got this thing here. I think this game might be in the bag. And then freaking Grayson Allen, who hadn't hit a three all game, gets the ball. And RJ, he went under the screen, but to his credit, for all that we've been knocking his defense recently, I thought he got a pretty good contest on it. And I don't know that trying to go over that screen would have resulted in a better contest than he got going under it. And still, Grayson Allen got just enough space, gets the freaking shot off and makes it and wins the game. He's officially the most annoying player in the entire NBA. I don't know. Maybe TJ McConnell. I don't know. He's right up there though. I'll take submissions for more annoying players, but with just an annoying way for that game to end. I thought the Knicks played a great game in this one. And ultimately it just to have it come down to a Grayson Allen three made is very annoying. When you get very in the moment like that and kind of enjoying what the Knicks are doing at that moment.
Yeah, RJ Barrett probably should have gone over the Brook Lopez screen there and at the very least chased Allen off the line. That being said, shockingly, he had Grayson Allen, that is, had a pretty sick up and under layup a few possessions before. So who knows if that might have gone any better. Maybe he just gets another shooter, an even more open shot. RJ still got a pretty good contest on it. And I certainly can't question his effort, more so just the decision-making there. Jalen's got to hit both those free throws. That was surprising to me that he missed one, as we noted, 90% on the season. Of course, that was a follow-up on Mitchell Robinson going 1 for 2 at the line, which I actually kind of consider success given the pressure of that situation. And then you and I disagree on this a little bit, but I thought RJ kind of tried to play hero ball a little bit with the three-pointer he took. I mean, granted, end of game, really good defense, you're not going to get a great shot. And to me, I thought Brunson was exhausted at the end of this game. I mean, clearly playing through that ankle injury he picked up. The guy was an absolute warrior for most of the night and made play after play in the fourth quarter. But you could see after Holiday fouled him for those final free throws, he was really breathing heavy. And surprisingly, he didn't really want the ball in his hands on that last play. It was on RJ to create. I would have preferred to have seen RJ go to the basket. I kind of wish Mitchell Robinson had taken some initiative and set a screen, because those two, and we can get into this in just a sec, because I thought Mitch was the next player of the game. Those two had really good pick and roll synergy all night. And instead, RJ just kind of forced up that three, missed it, Knicks foul, and ultimately can't win. What to your point, the second Giannis left, I was with you. It was like all of a sudden, wow, the Knicks have like two of the three, maybe three of the four best guys on the court. Like this is their game to win at that point.
Yeah, and this game, we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording. Like this game to me just kind of underscores the story of this Knicks season so far, and that as this Knicks team is currently constructed, like if this was a team that was mostly constructed of young players on rookie deals or whatever, this would be like, oh, what a great moral victory in this game. But as it stands, this is it's got to be a disappointment because this team isn't really built for moral victories. It's built to win games and to potentially make the playoffs. Like you invest that money in Jalen Brunson, you keep Julius Randle on a team at that dollar figure and everything, warts and all, if you think that it's going to help your team be good enough to make the playoffs. And, as it stands right now, they seem good enough to beat up on the worst team in the league, the Detroit Pistons. But then as we saw tonight, not quite good enough to beat one of the best teams in the league. And they've kind of proven all year so far that they're just not good enough to beat the good teams yet or at all, really. So that made, I guess, this game even more frustrating for me on top of the Grayson Allen factor. Just that, like, it just sort of was the latest underscoring of the fact that, like, okay, yeah, this Knicks team is fun at times. They have their moments, and Jalen Brunson is for real and everything else, but they still have so many flaws on this team. And, that, like, or I shouldn't say so many, but even at their best, they have just enough flaws that they can't quite put away a really good team, whether that's missing free throws, which it wasn't just Brunson that missed free throws. Like they didn't shoot very well from the free throw line as a team in this game. I forget what the total number was. It was enough points that they lost the game off of it. 13 of 20 overall from the free throw line. So you've got that as a factor, just not being able to get that one stop when you need it. Which can be attributed to maybe just not having that like go-to defender on the wing, at this point, even if Grimes is pretty darn good at that, he still wasn't, quite able to come up with those ones that they needed. It's just one of those tough losses, I think, in general, that we'll probably see a decent number more of this year as the Knicks kind of just continue on this like tightrope walk of like being not quite good enough to make a step forward, but definitely not bad enough to lose to a team like the Pistons on a consistent basis.
Yeah, and to your point, there were just a number of elements that made this game winnable against a team that frankly should beat the Knicks. Giannis didn't make his first field goal until 17 minutes into the game. The Knicks had only built up a 1-point lead at that point. And while Giannis was missing, the rest of the Bucks started just 2 for 17 from three. So that should be a recipe to the Bucks having no offense, and they really didn't. The issue was the Knicks didn't really have much offense either. And as Mike Breen noted on the broadcast, the shot selection was just pretty poor. For Julius Randle in particular, you could tell he was trying to build off his super hot night from a day ago and just didn't have it to the same extent. And it also really hurt them that Brunson got that injury early. And you could tell, the Knicks just desperately missed him. And it probably was a good window into like, oh man, they maybe would be in contention for a high draft pick this year if Jalen Brunson wasn't on this team. Fortunately for the Knicks, or unfortunately, if you want to shot at Victor Wembanyama, he is. And then in the second half, the Knicks played mistake-free basketball for 80% of it. They didn't have a turnover the first 19 minutes of the half. So all that, to me, plus Giannis fouling out, is a pretty clear-cut recipe for an upset. And they just didn't quite have the juice down the stretch, which is a shame because I think it takes away, Alex, from an effort that they were hyper competitive in throughout this game. And look, there were mistakes. Like Randall had bad plays, but and especially defensively, he had plays where he didn't give a crap, but he made up for it with some really like impact. Like he had a crazy save on like a Quentin Grimes miss at one point. Isaiah Hartenstein, he didn't make a huge impact, but he had plays where he was tipping it away from Bobby Portis and flying out of bounds to keep it in. Mitchell Robinson, who we'll get into in just a sec, was battling and beating Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo to offensive rebound after offensive rebound. RJ was going to the rim with ferocity I haven't seen in a long time. And man, I'll say it one more time and maybe a third time when we talk about him in full. But Brunson was just a warrior in this game, coming off that injury, battling Javon Carter and Drew Holiday, who are two of the more physical, rugged guard defenders in the league. He went at those guys again and again and again. It was just relentless. And to me, right there in the conversation with Mitch for having been the MVP if the Knicks could have pulled this one off. But Alex, I want to dive in on Mitchell Robinson because I think this might have been the best offensive game of his entire career. But before I do that, tough night for the Knicks. Might be good to make some money for yourself. Just bounce back, bet on another team, root for someone else for a night. Where is the place to go to do that?
Well, that is, of course, betonline.net. Betonline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer and esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those at BetOnline as well. Perhaps even some Locked On Knicks. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Some interesting lines that have come out. So preseason win totals have not closed on October 18th, and you were able to bet on those for a little bit. But now there are updated win totals that you can bet on for various teams. Some interesting ones. Utah, their win total projection has jumped up 17. Indiana's has jumped up 13. Sacramento's has jumped up 7. So some pretty big jumps there. The Lakers, meanwhile, big faller at -9 on their potential projected win total that you could bet on. So if you're still a believer in the Lakers, you could bet them over 35.5 wins, maybe. I don't know. If you're a believer in the Knicks, their win total has actually gone up 1 win as well to 39.5. So check that out at BetOnline. And again, head to the website betonline.net today. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. All right, and we are back to Locked On Knicks, and we want to thank you guys one more time for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today with our good buddy Peter Bukowski. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if my clip made it today, I talk about how Grayson Allen is annoying. So definitely check that out. All right, we're back talking about the Knicks, though. Let's never talk about Grayson Allen again. Instead, we will talk about Mitchell Robinson, which you alluded to, Gavin, that he had probably one of his most effective games of the entire season in this one. I mean, I don't think you can really downplay it in any way. Like that, to get 15 points and 20 rebounds against this front court of Brook Lopez and Giannis Antetokounmpo that also has the ability to play Bobby Portis out there with those two because Giannis is just so versatile. I mean, it was a virtuoso performance for Mitch. I thought this was I mean, it seems like hyperbole, but it's not. Like perhaps one of the best games of his career. I can't think of any other times when so many times Mitch, I feel like the discourse comes back to like caveats, right? Like, oh yeah, he had a great game, but it was against so-and-so and they were missing so-and-so, their starting center. Like, oh, it was only against the Detroit Pistons and they stink, or it was only against, whoever else and they stink, like there's always this like caveat, no caveats to this game. I mean, this was just pure dominance, especially on the rebounds. To any of the people that earlier this season were talking to us about like, oh, Mitch's counting stats and his rebounds aren't good, so obviously he's not a good rebounder. Like, here you go. I mean, this is what it looks like when Mitch, instead of just boxing out and trying to get his teammates rebounds, instead takes it upon himself to be like, no, I need to go get these because there's a Brook Lopez and a Giannis Antetokounmpo out here. This is what that looks like, and just crushed it both on the offensive and defensive glass. For those 20 total, had 11 on the O boards, which is just insanity. and 9 defensive rebounds. And the 15 points, we saw a little bit of versatility there too, like the usual, putbacks and alley oops and stuff, but nice little baby hook at one point, and that was pretty impressive. Also, I mean, he got switched on to Giannis quite a bit, and for as great as Giannis is at drawing free throws and everything, like he got 12 free throw attempts in this game alone. Mitch only had 2 personal fouls in 33 minutes in this game. Didn't have a ton of stocks in this game, just 1 block to his name, but Gavin, I didn't think that mattered at all. I mean, he did exactly what he had to do, which was make the Bucks' lives hell in this game, no matter how he could do it. And to your point, where you said this, even for as good as RJ was in this game, I thought Mitch definitely was the player of the game for the Knicks in this.
Yeah, he in the past, I think, has sort of been like a schoolyard bully, where he would kick the smaller guys' butts, and then someone his size would go to fight him. Kind of like I know you're a fellow MCU guy, so kind of like the first time Thanos fought Hulk, and then Hulk was just like, I'm not coming out again. That's too much. But this was Hulk kind of stepping up to Thanos, who was Giannis is essentially NBA Thanos, and kicking his butt, at least on the glass, not overall, obviously for 4 quarters. But the Bucks didn't have an answer for him. Two giants, and Mitch was bullying Brook Lopez throughout this one. And then offensively, the big thing that stood out to me, and honestly did in the Pistons game as well, and has the last few games for him, is how much better he's gotten on screens. And sometimes that means setting a hard screen. Like he completely took Drew Holiday, who's as I noted earlier, one of the most physical guards in the league, out of a play to give RJ Barrett a bucket early that helped get RJ going and helped RJ get off to that really good start. And then just the chemistry between him and Jalen Brunson is starting to get really good. And I don't think those two had much of a chance to figure that out earlier in the season, just because Jalen was getting comfortable and Randall had to get his shots and RJ had to get his shots. And there were almost too many moving pieces on offense for that part of the attack to really just get reps and have a chance to for those two to kind of figure out the dance. And that's what it is. It is a dance. But now you're starting to see them add a little bit more sophistication to that. Like there was one where Mitch set a screen for him just 8 feet away from the basket and then did just this little quick dive, and Brunson hit him with a lightning quick dunk, or lightning quick lob for a dunk. And that's a pass that, again, that's been available to Mitchell Robinson his whole career, and just basically no one on the Knicks has been willing to throw it. Brunson's skilled enough to just get it out of his hands quickly and throw that pass. And then in the second half, he said it was basically like a ghost screen on Lopez. And then Jalen Brunson, seeing that Mitch was breaking open, threw in a little hesitation dribble, froze Brook Lopez, lob to Mitch. Easy does it. And then down the stretch, even him going 1 for 2 at the free throw line, I thought was pretty big and pretty cool. And then on the second one, look, he got his own rebound. So it's basically all you can ask out of him. I hope this is a sign of things to come for Mitchell Robinson. Because I don't know about you, Alex, but sometimes when Jericho Sims was really rolling, I was like, all right, maybe they just trade Mitchell Robinson. They open up some cap space, and maybe it's not worth paying a center in his mold that much if he's not going to provide anything else. But it's nights like this where you're like, all right, he let the Knicks just not get out physical by a team that does it to basically everyone else in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I also think too, Sims, for as good as he is just never gonna intimidate another team the way that Mitch can, just by his pure size. Like Sims can jump a million feet in the air, but he's never going to be able to just like put his hands up in the air and basically like have his hands in front of the rim, and so it's always going to be a timing thing for him of being able to time his jumps and, get blocks that way, stuff like that. Mitch just has this innate ability to just wall everything off at this point. And also is just so strong and such a good offensive rebounder that I know some people are like, oh, well, he kind of like vultures offensive rebounds, or is like so dependent on that like it crowds the paint for everybody else. And maybe there's some truth to that, but when you have a guy that's that good at offensive rebounds and that good at putbacks, does it really matter if he's kind of drawing somebody else in there? Because he's just drawing in a guy that he's going to get the rebound over. And, and that's if your guy misses it to begin with, which, at least if it's like, I know RJ and Julius still have their issues, but at least now you can say, like, if it's Brunson driving in, you can feel pretty good about he's probably going to have some good touch on that shot. and potentially be able to get it in regardless of how crowded the paint is. But then you have that amazing safety valve of Mitch there able to grab it, which he was in this game, like time and time again. You know, he was obviously 11 offensive boards. It's like insanity. I think that's probably about double of, I think Steven Adams is leading the league with like 6 per game roughly right now. So that's about double of what the best offensive rebounder in the game gets in any given game that he just got in one game. So pretty fantastic stuff. And yeah, to your point, the screening has been noticeably better. And that might be the biggest thing to justifying Mitch's contract, right? Because we know the other things that he can do. We know the rebounding. We know the the shot blocking and the rim deterrence and all that stuff, the lob catching ability now that he seems to have his legs back under him. But the one thing that's always been an issue is like, Mitch, you're so much bigger now. Like, you're not the skinny kid that came in 2018 anymore. You're like a big, grown ass adult now. Like you can go set a screen and take some contact, and he always seems very reluctant to do that, and does sort of the old like Porzingis like slip the screen kind of thing, and it just never seems like a thing that Mitch should be doing given his size. So to see him setting those hard screens and affecting the game positively, for as maybe unreasonable as our old comparisons of like, oh, if he reaches the ceiling, he could be Rudy Gobert's team now. That's one thing that if he starts doing that as well as a Rudy Gobert, maybe he could find some Rudy Gobert light, or at least Clint Capella in himself, because those guys are like lethal screen setters. And if Mitch can start using his heft and just taking that contact more often, he might find himself in that category sooner than later.
Yeah, I'm with you. I wanna actually get into Jalen Brunson a little bit more next, but before we do, Alex, let's step aside one final time, and when we return, we're going to talk Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, both with big nights. All right, we are back on Locked On Knicks. Jalen Brunson, we've touched on it a little bit, but goes out with that apparent ankle injury and comes back and just he almost won the Knicks the game down the stretch, and he was doing so like just torturing Javon Carter. A couple of times it was Holiday, but it was mostly Javon Carter, and he kept doing the same thing, right? He would use the screen, he would get Carter on his hip, and then he would either just kind of burst by him for a floater, or when he wanted to be really mean, he has this little move where he lets you catch up to him as if he's going to take that step back fadeaway, and he has that in his bag, and he's just so deadly from the elbows. You have to honor it, and then he'll just pause, let you stop as well, and then speed by you to the rim and get a floater. And I mean, I just thought his toughness was so impressive. I mean, he had that play where he took the shot from Giannis and still got the lefty layup. He had the when the play drew the foul on, like he let Drew Holiday just basically like tackle him from the shoulders up. He had a ridiculously good pass when Obi got a rebound. It was either late third or early fourth. Zipped it to Brunson at half court, and Brunson had Carter and Holiday both around him, did like a little hesitation dribble to avoid getting it stolen, then just ripped it with one hand to Cam wide open under the rim. I just thought this was another game, Alex, where you were like, wow, are the Knicks just incredibly lucky to have Jalen Brunson on this team, and where would they be without him?
Yeah, I mean, first off, dude's just like built for tough, right? Like, I mean, he comes up so lame on like the first play of the game for him practically, and has to get not quite the first play, but very early in the game has to sub out. It looks like it's like, oh man, he twisted his ankle real bad. He's definitely gonna be out, like because he just twisted his ankle the other day too. Apparently has like a quad injury and all this other stuff. And then he just comes back in and is like, no big deal. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'm taped. I'm good. Like, let's let's get back at it. And yeah, I mean, I do think it affected him to some degree, but I mean, it's like the warriors of players that don't let that stuff affect them to the point that they can't still do what they want to do on a basketball court. And he did exactly that. And I mean, to your point, you could pinpoint a million other players that you wouldn't even fault them for. Like if they were hurting like he was, that would be like, maybe I shouldn't like get somebody stuck on my hip and then make them jump and tackle me. just to get a couple free throws.
Yeah.
But Brunson was like, yeah, sure. I'll do that. Like I'll jump up and I'll get tackled and, it'd be no worse for wear. It'll be fine. And so kudos to him for that, for playing that way down the stretch. And then I got to say too, there was like, I found myself chuckling to myself. Like usually when he gets into his little, like, your turn, my turn, like anything you could do, I could do better matches, it's like someone that's like a peer of his. So it'll be like him versus like John Morant, and like John Morant will be starting to cook and then Brunson will be like, I'm going to go cook now. Or, like sometimes he just straight up has the ability to completely overshadow whoever it is that he's doing that against. I'm trying to think. There was one play. Oh, Cole Anthony earlier this year, where Cole Anthony started cooking a little bit, and then Brunson literally just like took his lunch and was like, "Nope, sit down, buddy. Like this is my game, my show, my time to shine right now." There was something weirdly hilarious about him doing that against Giannis, where it's like just seeing like the guy in Giannis with the most physical gifts probably of anybody in the NBA, like takes a stride and is like already like 3/4 of the way, to the hoop when he's coming from the 3-point line. We saw him a million times in this game. Just like the Knicks did really an okay job of like playing defense on him at certain points. And he would just be like, nope, one single step for me is like 8 feet. So I could just kind of like walk right by you and put this ball in the hoop. And with my, phenomenal wingspan and everything else. Whereas with Brunson, it's like, this is the guy that has been dealt maybe the worst hand of almost anyone in the NBA as far as physical gifts.
Yeah.
And yet has just figured it out from a pure craft perspective. So just seeing this like back and forth of like, okay, Giannis goes down, does something, freakish, but totally normal for him. And, finishes a play and scores points. Then Brunson goes down and has to like literally almost die at the hands of Drew Holiday's crotch and, get a couple free throws out of it. But you know what? He got his points that way. There was just something very fun about watching that, like that
duality.
Duality, dichotomy, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
Of how that all went down. So big kudos to Jalen Brunson for that game and for really gutting it out. And I mean, I feel like he's gutted it out like his last like 3-4 games, because he twisted his ankle a few games ago and then played through it that day, like has suited up every single other game, apparently has this quad issue, then today twists an ankle again, comes right back in and continues to light it up. Like big props to him. But speaking of big props to somebody, RJ Barrett, I thought had a really good game as well. 26 points, 8 of 15 shooting, 2-4 from 3, 8 of 9 from the free throw line, which, that won't get old. Like I love, first off, him getting to the free throw line that many times again, and then hitting that many free throws. Huge for him. It's going to continue to be. He ends with 3 assists. I went back and watched them because I was like, I barely even remember him getting an assist. They were very fluky. They were very much like he handed someone the ball at the top of the key. They took one dribble and then drove in and made a layup of their own accord. But it's like, yeah, technically that's an assist. So good. Pad the stats a little. But from a scoring perspective, I thought that he played within himself again. Did a good job of, drawing contact when he got inside, which led to all those free throws. The finishing still leaves something to be desired, obviously. There were a few like face palm misses where you're like, RJ, I don't understand, dude. Like, you have such a good angle. Maybe it's just because we're getting too spoiled by Brunson and just how great he is at that like high arcing, layup when he drives in and doesn't quite have the lane all the way to the hoop. Like RJ had a few of those that just were woefully bad, which some of his layups have a tendency to be. But, hit a floater at one point, hit a couple threes. I know some people were faulting him for the final shot at the end, or not quite the final shot, but like the penultimate shot, I guess, for the Knicks, where Grayson Allen made that 3 and then RJ took it down and tried to do the same thing to him. I thought it was a good shot though, or at least as good as could be, to your point, to what we were saying, like Brunson did seem pretty gassed down the stretch, like had missed 1 of 2 free throws, which is very uncharacteristic for him. Looked like he was maybe wincing a little bit, feeling the ankle right at the end there. Julius didn't really have it. Grimes didn't really have it shooting the ball in this game. Mitch obviously is not going to be there to get a three for you. Maybe, to your point, with how well he was screening, should have been more active and maybe being like, oh, I'll free RJ up with a screen at least. But given how the play developed, I didn't hate the decision from RJ to take that shot. And on a night where he was kind of feeling it anyway, and it, to that point made 2 of 3 threes, I think. Why not? Why not give it a shot? And he's made that exact same shot with Jason Tatum in front of him before. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good game from him. I think the last 3 games in a row have showed a drastic increase in quality of like his process, as much as that's sort of like a cliche, but like I think his process has been great the last 3 games. The game prior to this one, he didn't shoot the best, but I thought that he made, great decisions. I kind of think that the best RJ games are ones where you look at the box score afterwards and you're like, oh, I did not realize that he had 26 points tonight. Like, which was how I felt when I looked at the box score today. Like, oh, he did that very quietly and very unassumingly and didn't dominate the ball and didn't make me sit there scratching my head or like beating my head into the table, the entire game because of shot selection or him trying to force things or whatever. He kind of just organically found his way to 26 points. And I thought it was a great outing for him.
Yeah, it gives you some hope that this is just that the first month and a half is his classic terrible month and a half for 3 seasons in a row, at least, if not the entirety of his career so far. Because to your point, there were moments in this game where I was like, oh, this is like classic RJ, which I know you referenced this the other day. It feels weird to say about someone so early in their career, but he had one drive on Drew Holiday where he got a step on a dribble handoff. And again, Holiday is just super strong, and RJ is like no dice when Drew tried to get back in front of him. RJ just kept him on his hip the whole way, sped in, didn't really mess around with the floater or anything, got right to the bucket, right to the backboard for a layup. That was great. I thought similar to Brunson, he flashed some really good pick and roll chemistry with Mitch. And honestly, his best play of the day was a pass that didn't count as an assist, where he ran that PNR with Mitch it was like 1:05 left on the game clock. And he just kind of, right as he got into the lane, had 2 defenders on him, paused, and he let Drew and he let Brook converge on him. And then he just slipped it under Brook's arm to Mitch, and Mitch would have had a dunk if not for some really timely help from Giannis. And of course, that led to the sequence where Mitch went 1 for 2 and then Brunson went 1 for 2. But I just thought that was such an unselfish play. And it's so rare that RJ makes the obvious pass this year. Like even this game, he missed one where he had, I think it was Grimes wide open behind him. And instead it was Grimes. And instead he forced up a floater that barely hit backboard and barely hit rim. But this was a complicated pass where he actually manipulated the defense into the opening showing up. And I always thought that was the next step for him. And that's been so few and far between this season for RJ. That play really, really gave me a lot of confidence for him. To keep it moving, Julius Randle, mixed night for him, right? Where there's a lot of really good and a lot of really bad. Like, again, gets off to a good start. Hits the 26-foot 3 for his first shot, then follows it up with a nice long 2, then a bad air ball. Then he hits D Rose on a nice cut to the basket. His boxing out, I think, has been quite a bit better. Maybe I'm missing some plays where he gets lazy on rebounding again, but that was a big issue earlier this season. And he had some really strong rebounds, particularly on Giannis on the defensive side of the ball. Was finishing inside really well, like hit Bobby Portis with about 4 pump fakes at one point before hitting a little fadeaway. Had a 50-foot bullet pass to RJ in transition for a layup that honestly might be Julius Randle's like pass of the year so far this season. He's had a couple like that, but that one was an absolute dime. I already mentioned the great hustle play where he saved the ball late in the game, was super aggressive. Like there was a play where Giannis got very lazy going over a screen, and Julius just took full advantage of it, going all the way to the rim for a layup, got a tip in late. And then there were some more bad ones where he was just like, he played totally like carte blanche defense and let, I think it was Pat Connaughton go right, or Matador defense, right between him and Isaiah Hartenstein for a layup. And then there's another play we lost track of time and had a shot clock violation. So Alex, I know I'm basically reciting his whole game, but I say all that to say, like, it's so darn frustrating with him because you can't get a beat on the guy. He's amazing, he's terrible, all within one game.
Yeah. it's just like the defensive inconsistencies were what kind of annoyed me in this game the most. He's gonna have his off shooting nights, and I mean, obviously, yeah, he took 8 threes in this game and clearly was trying to recapture the magic of the night before against the Pistons and just never found it.
He looks out at the MSG show and he's like, did you guys say encore? And they're like, no.
No. Yeah, like, no, we said no more, not encore. Like,
I'll shoot another one.
But yeah, I mean, it's just like the play of the game for me with him, and this sort of just like Schwinn pointed this out in our Strickler Discord, and I think on Twitter too, and I noticed this live also. The play of the game for me with him that just kind of underscores his season for me so far is like there was a play where I think it was George Hill kind of got free on a screen on the outside.
After.
Yeah, and he's driving in, and Randall is literally standing dead in front of him, and like the rim is like right behind Randall's head. So like you're the last thing between him and the rim. And Randall doesn't put his hands up, doesn't close, doesn't do anything. And then Hill just floats a nice little floater above him. And then Randall immediately, like starts barking at IQ, who was like 7-8 feet away, like keeping an eye on Javon Carter, who, by the way, is a 40% three-point shooter and has been playing really good fill-in ball for the Bucks here while they wait for Middleton to come back. And, so Javon Carter's like right there waiting for the ball if Quickly would have strayed too far away from him. And like George Hill isn't a dummy. Like he would have known to pass the ball out there. And Randall's like, IQ, why didn't you abandon your assignment to come in here and guard the guy that I should have switched on to when I'm literally standing directly in front of him? And it's just like that sort of stuff is what annoys me with Julius, where it's like he could do all the great things in the world, but like I know that that's just one play over the course of a whole game, but you can't. There just can't be that lack of accountability. Like you can't have that little self-awareness on the basketball court to not just be like, literally all you got to do after that situation, tap your chest, just be like, my bad, I missed my rotation.
Has
like,
he done that once this year? Can I just throw this out there? Have we seen him do that? Hey, that was my fault. Offensively, has defensively, have we seen him do that? Because I don't remember.
I don't think I've ever seen it. Most of the time it's either he's complaining to a ref or he's yelling at someone else, or he just likes to pretend like it just didn't happen, and I think that just speaks to his overall opinion of that side of the ball, which is just like, oh, this doesn't matter because I got to go get mine on the other end, But really, probably the most important part of Julius's game is his defense a lot of nights, because he's often the sort of the weak link, in situations like that, where that's like George Hill's not a big man. You can put your arms up and you'd probably disturb that shot quite a bit. And you wouldn't even have to foul him or anything. It's like, it's so simple. And yet, even that one little simple thing is enough for Julius to be like, no, I shouldn't have had to do that. Someone else should have come in here and done that for me. I don't get it. I hate to, again, to your point, he had some good moments in this game, but it's certain stuff like that just stands out, that just kind of makes you like face palm and be like, I want this to work so bad, but then you do something like this and it's just so hard to root for you, because you're then like taking it out on one of the younger players on the team who's probably going to take that to heart. And then, maybe that'll affect him the rest of the game, when really you should just like, if you're going to be like the leader of the team or whatever, you should just be like, my bad, dude. Like I missed that. Let's go get it on the next one. That's it. That's all you have to say. So I don't know. I don't really have too much to add on any other players, if I'm being completely honest. Like I thought it was just pretty run of the mill for most of the other guys. So honestly, Gavin, I feel pretty comfortable wrapping up here. But if you have any final notes, feel free to throw them in before we finish things up here.
I'll do some rapid fire on a few guys. Emmanuel Quickly, I thought really disappointing night for him. On the obvious front, he just missed a lot of wide open shots, both threes and layups that went in and out. So that'll correct itself. But I mean, in a season where he largely hasn't hit those shots, it continues to be concerning when he has nights like that. Also had a couple of defensive miscues that aren't really typical for him. But I do want to call out one great play he had, where late in the game he was guarding Grayson Allen, and and went over to double on Giannis, but learned his lesson from earlier in the game when he gave up a three. Doubling Giannis this time, just had super active hands and basically delayed Giannis long enough that Mitch could tie him up and ultimately force a shot clock violation. That to me was maybe the defensive play of the day that anyone on the Knicks had. So that was cool. Obi Toppin, I think this Ariel tweeted out the stat, but 54% of Obi shots this season have come from three. And it feels like his rookie year where the Knicks have basically just turned him into a wing shooter. And granted, he's gotten much, much better at that. But I am immensely frustrated at his stagnation because earlier in the season, he was flashing signs of being pretty significantly improved as a ball handler. That hasn't been there for about 15 games now. And that just absolutely sucks. Cam Reddish has been quiet for a few games. I want to see him get back to being more aggressive. I just think it's a tricky dance for him because this season has really proven that he kind of sucks as an isolation player, and he's really good at attacking closeouts, and he just hasn't gotten a lot of opportunities to. Quentin Grimes had a great dunk off a closeout where he had just an absolute blow by on Brook Lopez, ultimately got a dunk. Didn't do a great job on Drew Holiday late, thought it was pretty mixed, and I think it's going to take some time, but I want him to be more aggressive and get touches in late game situations because outside of Jalen Brunson, he's easily the Knicks' best offensive decision maker on the whole team. And he should have the ball like as much as RJ Barrett, as much as Julius Randle, I think, down the closing stretches of games. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Isaiah Hartenstein, another tough game, some good hustle, but I wouldn't mind seeing Jericho Sims over him at this point, the way the Knicks are using him.
All right. Well, I think that's some good rapid fire notes to end on. So thank you all for listening to Locked On Knicks. We have another installment in the mailbag coming out tomorrow, so keep your ears out for that. And we'll have more installments of that as the month goes on. You can feel free. We actually got like a ton of questions this month, which was great. But if you want to, drop some more in, you can always feel free. Go find that tweet on our timeline or just DM us on Twitter or whatever at Locked On Knicks. And you can send us mailbag questions there. Always happy to answer stuff because we love talking about what you guys want us to talk about. So definitely check that out tomorrow and going forward. But until next time, thank you all for listening. And we will talk to you guys all soon. Peace out.